All right, thanks for all of you for joining me. Today we are going to talk about knowing when to quit. We hear all of the time about how you should fail quickly so you can move on to success. So my question today is, how do you know when to quit as opposed to being resilient and continuing to work on something? So what are your thoughts? When to quit?
So I guess instinctively, like if you're asking yourself the question, then maybe there's the answer. And like to add to that, like if you say, okay, I'm checking out, I'm going to quit on this because I'm asking myself the question, and you notice a feeling going on inside you that goes, but wait, how about all this stuff? And you're way deep into this and you're so close. Maybe there's the answer there. That might be simplistic, but that's how I tend to, I guess, deal with that question.
Have you done it that way?
Yeah. And also I like zooming out quite a lot. So I guess rather than get myself into a situation where I think whether or not I need to quit, I'm trying to operate now on a hell yes, or it's a no before I even commit to something. So I, in theory, reduce the number of times where I feel like I have to quit or bail out of something.
That makes sense. That does make sense. That's the thing, because for me, I think the only firm rule that I would have put in place is if you no longer want the outcome, quit. Because that's if you're asking yourself, why am I doing this, and nothing pops into your head, even after a few minutes of thinking about it, then it's probably not worth continuing with whatever it is. But I get where it gets complicated, because every now and again when things are getting really hard and it's really testing your endurance and it's testing your grit and your resilience and all of that, it's tricky, because you think, well, that's an uncomfortable feeling, so it's not going to be pleasant, you're not going to be enjoying it. But if you still do really want the outcome, then it becomes a question of weighing up, what am I willing to sacrifice and how much of this am I willing to put up with in order to get the outcome, which is a much more complicated question, I think.
Yeah. So when I look at this, I think persistence is a virtue, but so is flexibility. And there needs to be a balance between what you want and what excites you, and also what the world wants, right? So you can be excited about something, but you might get burned out if you can't bring that excitement to other people, or if they're not already excited about it too.
So do you think if the excitement wanes, that's when to quit?
With the proviso, like not on a day-to-day basis, but over the course of a few months or maybe a year, if you're not getting momentum, you have to listen to the world around you to see what the world wants too.
I really agree with that, Jim. I think there's something linked to that about like the opportunity cost. So like if I'm saying yes to this one thing, I'm effectively saying no to everything else. Like I don't get to spend that time 2-3 times all at the same time. Like I'm focused on this one thing. And like, if the world changes and that thing is no longer relevant, or it's just not the time for it right now, then I have to kind of get out my own way and go, you know what, maybe not now. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go in this direction instead.
Right.
I tend to be, I think, overly stubborn when it comes, like I want to do it and do it and do it. And it takes me too long to quit. And so for me, what has made me decide, okay, this is something I need to stop doing now, is when I've run out of things to do that aren't working. Which I think that's too long, right? It's when I'm like, okay, what else can I do? Everything I've done hasn't worked. Oh, I've done all the things. I think that's too long.
I've seen, but so working with coaching clients, I've seen some really powerful shifts happen simply by asking a question like, what advice would you give yourself? So it's almost like you can step out of that, the whole sunk cost fallacy thing, like, but I've gone so far, I'm so invested in this, I refuse to quit, hustle, be like Gary V and all of that stuff. But I think there's a point where you just have to like drop the ego a moment and kind of step out, zoom out a little bit and think, right, okay, let's think about this in a kind of dispassionate way. What advice would I give myself? Well, I could carry on because it's really important and it matters. Or actually you need to just
go do something else important.
Yeah. That is the tricky part though, isn't it? It's the detaching from the emotion of it all, particularly if it's something that you've poured years into and made sacrifices for already and that kind of thing. You sort of think, well, I'm so emotionally invested, and if I quit now, why did I do it? And then it becomes a thing of, again, like you say, Gareth, from a coaching point of view, it's getting yourself to focus on the right stuff. So looking at thinking, it's not necessarily that if you quit now, it was all a waste of time. You've got to sift through what you've done to find the stuff of value. What lessons have I learned? What experience have I gained? What have I learned about myself throughout this journey, and all that kind of thing. And where it starts to look valuable, the journey looks valuable, whether or not you quit now. That's, you kind of think, so okay, so you don't get that sense of it will have all been a waste if I quit now, which just keeps you hanging on to that thread, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm. And if you can take away those learnings, does it become more of a pivot than a quit? And does that make it psychologically easier?
Oh yeah,
Point.
I think quitting has got some kind of negative connotations attached to it. And actually, I don't ever think it's about quitting. I think it's about, you know, reprioritizing, changing direction, finding something that's a higher value or higher purpose to you. Maybe even creating space for the new thing to show up. You might not know what it is yet, and that leap of faith for, you know what, I have to stop doing this. I don't know what the new thing is, but I know it's going to come, and it won't unless I create the space for it.
You can also get an energy boost if you can look back on the things that you've done in the past and salvage the good parts of your bad ideas, right? And then you'll find that you've already done some of the work already. You know, you've laid the groundwork, and you get to reclaim that.
Yeah.
I have a good friend.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, so I was actually just going to say, and it was a little bit bumper sticker, so it's probably better if I didn't say it, but it was a bit like, you know, you need to sort of climb the mountain in order to get the new vantage point so you can see what else is out there. And it might be that you look backwards and go, oh, I didn't know that was over there. So you've got to go back down the mountain to get over to the other side, but you wouldn't have seen it if you hadn't have gone up to the top in the first place. So it was a bit cheesy, wasn't it? Gareth, you go.
I liked it. I don't think that would entirely fit on a bumper sticker unless you have a very big car as well. I have a friend, and he has this infectious habit, which I've caught from him, saying, and what's great about that is. So he can be telling you this story of like just a litany of horror, like the week to end all weeks. And then he'll pause and go, and what's great about that is, and it's always like an opportunity for him to go, well, okay, so it's taught me I'm stronger than I thought I was, or actually this is a chance because I've lost everything to regroup, rebuild, and start with something fresh. That's cool. And I'm like, brilliant. It's brilliant for my mindset hanging out with him.
I had to write that one down. What's great about that is I love that.
Yeah, same. That's a very good tool.
Yeah, that's actually a tool they use in improv comedy, is you can never say no or but. Right. You can only say and just kind of build on what you already said.
That's true.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good way if you're looking at whether you should quit or not. You can start looking at, so what's great about what I've done, the what's working part, what could I take away? And then like, can I pivot, or do I need to like just hard say, this is not working, and go do something else? And so we've got about a minute left. What do you think? How do you make that decision between pivot or just hard stop and take the good pieces and go do something else completely?
I think you just got to like take action and then work out how you label it after the fact. Because intellectualizing what is it exactly is probably going to get in the way of making a decision and getting you to a better place. So it's like one foot in front of the other, and then maybe look back on it and think, okay, so it was a pivot, not a quit.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. Yeah. Kind of. Sorry, Robyn, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, Karina, you told me at one point, if it's not working, stop doing it. And that was some of the best advice I ever got. At the time, I was like, what? You want me to quit? But it was actually really good advice. If it stopped doing the things that aren't working, and that worked out really well for me.
Yeah, there was a context, a wider context around that. But yes, essentially, I think, you know, don't flog a dead horse. If you've confirmed that something isn't working, then, you know, I think that's a logical move, I guess.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Jim, do you have any last thoughts?
Yeah, you know, part of it's also just looking at your own energy inventory and what you have the resources to do. What can you do? And that helps you narrow down your choices as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here. That is our 10 minutes. I know it goes by in like a blink of an eye, but I appreciate you guys coming together with me today and having a conversation about knowing when to quit. I think it was super helpful. So thanks, and we'll do it again soon. I'll see you guys later.
Look forward to it. Cheers, Robyn. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.